how do you get into NFTs? Can you create them? Should I buy one? Do I buy it as an investment? Do I buy it for something that it represents or gives me? Can I create my own collection of these sort of digital artworks? Can I use it as a way of raising money? And I think the answer is probably yes to all of them, but with some pretty big caveats.
Welcome to the How to Raise Money podcast for anyone who wants to raise other people's money for a business or property venture. Right now, there has never been more money on the planet, and there has never been more opportunity. This podcast will help you put the two together. So, if you need money for your business or property proposals from banks, lenders, angels, whales or dragons, this is the podcast for you.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the How to Raise Money podcast with me, Ray McLennan.
And it's with me, Nigel T. Best. Raymondo, how the devil are you?
Well, Nigel, as your mug says, everything will be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end. So we're not at the end. In fact, are we at the beginning, or is it the beginning of the end? Mr. Churchill would say.
Yes.
Yeah. What's going on in the world? Kerfuffle. Economy, interest rates going up again, and people wanting to raise money and looking at various ways of being creative. And we mentioned in the last episode, we talk about NFTs, and that is what we're going to talk about today. So NFTs, the non-fungible token, the digital assets that's verified on blockchain, that's designed to be one of a kind, that cannot be replicated, that cannot be exchanged for something of equal value, unlike cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, which are called fungible. So non-fungible tokens. I dare say they came to prominence in the last couple of years. And this time last year, they seemed to be, riding on the crest of a wave as people started to create NFTs. I always found it a bit strange, a bit odd, but people were clearly making money from it. There was the Bored Ape Yacht Club or whatever it was, which are just these digital representations of cartoon characters, as far as I could see. But somebody said, well, they're unique and they're very rare and you can only have one. And it's a bit like there's only one Mona Lisa, but there's lots of posters of the Mona Lisa. I don't know. I just didn't quite get that or buy that you've got the original digital representation of a cartoon gorilla. Why does that make it worth hundreds of thousands, Nigel? You're going to have to explain that to me if you can.
Okay, well, this is where we probably spiral off into my theories about some of the NFT stuff. So I mean, fundamentally, Ray, one of the questions is, okay, how do you get into NFTs? Can you create them? Should I buy one? Do I buy it as an investment? Do I buy it for something that it represents or gives me? Can I create my own collection of these sort of digital artworks? Can I use it as a way of raising money? And I think the answer is probably yes to all of them, but with some pretty big caveats. Now, hopefully we'll go through some of these and some of the problems with them and some of my thoughts on it. But Ray, when you're talking about the Bored Ape Yacht Club, so people are probably thinking, what the hell? If you've never had a look at how much these things are, go to a website called OpenSea, OPENSEA.io. Go have a look there. Have a look at the top NFTs and how much they're worth. So whenever you're looking at something, you'll see the trading volumes. And most of them have very, very small trading volumes, which often means that they are illiquid. So you got to be careful on that. But have a look at what they call the floor price. So that is the cheapest version of that NFT. Okay. Now, the Bored Ape Yacht Club, the floor price is 77.8899 ETH or an Ethereum. And I think at the moment, I think in the last couple of days, it was about $1,800 per ETH.
Is that about 400 grand or something?
So 77 or 78 ETH. So 78 times $1,800. What's that, Raymondo?
That's about 140 grand.
About 140 grand, or buy you a particularly ugly picture of an ape, which I mean, I really don't like them. So I don't like them for the artistic value. Some people bought it for that and what have you. Yeah, and what you'll find is a lot of those apes are an awful lot more. So if you scroll down, you'll see what they are, and you can see they get to 100 ETH, 120 ETH, 125, 150 ETH. You know, you scroll down and you will see that some of these are, you know, millions of dollars.
Yeah, I'm looking at one that sold 7 days ago for 275 ETH, which is like $495,000.
Okay.
7 days ago. It's a picture of a ape with what looks like a toothpick in its mouth and like a red smoking jacket with a black collar, and it's got beams of light coming out of its eyes.
There you
Nigel,
go.
what is going on? I'm feeling very old here and very
Well, here's the thing, because you look at this and you go, right, well, hold on a second. What is the Bored Ape Yacht Club? Well, there's stuff behind it and what have you. And we get into something called utility. And the utility is basically what's the value of something behind the digital artwork. And people, you should be thinking at this point, my goodness me, I'm going to create a collection of these things. I'm going to sell them. I'm going to become incredibly wealthy. You know, what a great way to raise money. And you should be thinking that, but there's always something behind it, isn't there? There's always something more to these sort of things. And one of the things that, you know, I want to just sort of investigate a bit today when you're looking at this. So the question is, can you create and sell your own NFTs to raise money? The answer is most definitely yes. It is something that you've got to get your head around. There's lots of companies out there that will help you do it. And in order to sell something, there's a huge amount of marketing that you have to do. Now, you've got to understand what the platforms are. You've got to understand how the blockchain works. You've got to understand what you're trying to do, what you're trying to offer people. But the other thing that you've got to really appreciate on this is that a lot of the ecosystem is on Discord servers. If you've never used Discord, I'm in two minds over it. Yes, it can be amazing, but no, it can be an absolute nightmare. The other thing is everything tends to be done on Twitter. So there's an awful lot of marketing that you have to do. So if you're not involved in Twitter, never use Discord, you've never done digital art creation, you've never written blockchain contracts or anything like that, okay, you're not going to crack this by this afternoon. All right. What I think is, though, the bigger problem behind it, let's say you've nailed the tech or you've got someone in, you've worked it out and you're doing all the rest of it. For me, raising money on NFTs is all about what you are offering, as I say, as utility for it. So what access does it give you? Now, some famous people, Gary Vaynerchuk, he did one called VFriends, and he said, look, if you buy an NFT, and basically he did doodles and he sold them. He said, if you hold this NFT, it will give you access to the Gary V conferences and events for 3 years or something like that. So people immediately went, right, hang on, this is great. Gary V, very astute guy, obviously. And he said, I'm going to sell these NFTs at, let's say, $1,000. Now, the utility of that, it's in effect like a tradable ticket. So just at the moment, you can't do ticket touting for concerts or anything like that. With NFTs, you can legitimately resell them. And so people were saying, right, I'm going to buy this NFT, for argument's sake, $1,000, because the 3 events that this gives me access to, they're $1,000 each. So I've effectively bought tickets to the next 3 events at a discount. Fabulous. You know, I'm going to do that. So these things all sold. So Gary V raised an awful lot of money. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, but that's like a one-off sale. But this is where the beauty of NFTs, blockchain, smart contracts comes in. Essentially, can you imagine if a company went public, went to the stock market and sold all its shares? It raises an initial amount of money. Great way to raise money, isn't it? I mean, it's probably the top method of doing it, raising a lot of money for your business. Now, imagine if every time somebody bought and sold those shares, the company received a percentage that the company decided it would set. It received a percentage of whatever the trading value was. So let's say they said, every time you buy and sell the shares in our company, the smart contract will go through, ownership will transfer, the money will transfer, 90% will go to the person selling, and 10% goes to the original company that set up this NFT, this share in the business. Now, at one point, Gary V had so many people trading his VFriends NFTs, he was making on his small percentage for on the secondary market, all the trades, he was making more than $1 million a day on the secondary sales. So not only did he raise an enormous amount of money, he continued to raise a large amount of money on a daily basis for actually doing nothing different. Now, how do you get that situation where you are going to do something amazing? Well, you've got to offer great utility. And Gary V said, you've got access to this event over the next few years. And people went, okay, totally get it. When you look at some of these other NFTs, and Ray, this is where I kind of go into what I call, I wrote a glossary of terms for people doing NFTs and things like that. And I coined a new one. I call it ENC, and I call it Emperor's New Clothes. Mm-hmm. And folks, you need to be well aware of Emperor's New Clothes. So you're in two minds. You're either thinking, well, no, three minds, let's say. You're either thinking, enough NFTs, blockchain, load of baloney, I'm out of here. I don't want to know anything to do with it. I'm with Warren Buffett, and he said, do you want me, if you want to give me a block of apartments or a load of NFTs, I'll take the apartments all day long. Sort of thing. I'm in that camp. Don't want to know about it. Enough. Or you might be thinking, I want to create my own collection and sell it and raise millions. And I'm going to encourage people to trade them. And I'm going to take 10% of every trade, subsequent trade, and I'm going to have regular income, et cetera, et cetera. You might be in that camp. Or you might be someone who says, all right, Nigel, give me the inside info into one that's going to go crazy in terms of, price rises. I'm going to invest, and I'm going to raise money by investing. This is where it becomes very, very tricky. With a lot of investments, again, Warren Buffett, he's a guy who drills into businesses and says, what are the fundamentals? What market are they in? What are they doing? How can you assess it? How can you value it? What's the demand going to be like? What's their customer base? And all the other usual company analysis type stats. He's quite comfortable with that, and you can do it. Can you translate this to NFTs? Well, do you know what? I think it's really hard to do it, because the utility is essentially the functional use or the purpose beyond the piece of artwork. And what you're trying to do is quantify, okay, what is that? And how would people value it? And what you will find when you get into this space is that most of it is talk. Most of it is talk. And this is where I'm brought in the Emperor's New Clothes, the ENC rating. And you are getting some very, very famous people, some very big people who are involved in all things social media, Web 3.0, tech, and all the rest of it. And they talk about these NFTs, and it is just, honestly, it is like listening to the courtesans around the emperor saying that standing there in the nude, it looks the finest cloth and the finest material, the finest set of clothes ever. And in reality, someone is going to come in and say, hold on a second, the emperor's naked. And these have happened. And if you ever hear people saying they've been pulled or rug pulled, or it was a rug pull, effectively, they've set these things up with great fanfare. And then people have realized there's nothing behind it. And essentially...
Gary V's are changing hands at the moment for just over $9,500.
Yeah,
So,
and I don't know what his original price was.
Well, they did start off sub 1,000, so now changing hands. But as well as Bored Ape and all these other ones, I had a quick look, and the most expensive NFT sold for $91 million. $91 million. And it was a thing called Beeple's Artwork Every Day. And that was before the end of 2021. But interestingly, Julian Assange,
hold on. Did you see that the first ever tweet by Jack Dorsey on Twitter?
Yeah,
it's an NFT that was sold, and I think that was about 14 million. I think his latest offer when he wanted to sell it was something like $50. And they put the percentage up. It's 0.00001% of it. Folks, this, go on, you're going to talk about Julian Assange, but when you're looking at these things, you've got to say, what is the long-term demand going to be for this? Or is it going to be Emperor's New Clothes? I mean, what the hell can you do with an NFT of the first bloody tweet? I mean, what were you thinking?
I know. Well, Julian Assange created a token to support a social cause. And it was called the Clock, to represent a digital counter of the days he spent in London's Belmarsh prison awaiting extradition to the United States. And it was to raise funds effectively to castigate his imprisonment. And it was auctioned off. Get this. Well, not get it, don't buy it, but get this, understand this, $52 million. $52 million. Now, 10,000 people now own a share of this NFT. And it also joins the Edward Snowden's initiative in favor of freedom of speech. But there is one, the next one in the list was $28 million. I mean, look at the difference from 52 million to 28 million. And it was called Human One. And it's apparently a life-size 3D NFT, features an individual in what looks like a space costume, which changes color to bronze or silver according to the artist's wishes. But the artist has told people that it will upgrade the artwork throughout its life. So this piece of art remains dynamic and crosses time. Now, I remember a song by
Ray, just listening to that final phrase there, that is when my bullshit detector kicks in and just goes, all right, this is like someone describing a wine with hints of blackberry, mulberry, and you can almost taste the horse's hoof as it trod on the grape or something. You know, it's absolute baloney. You know, you either like it or you don't. You know, and you think, and you will have a value in your head as to that bottle of wine's £3. That bottle of wine, yeah, I'd pay 15 quid. That bottle of wine, I'd pay $1 million. You kind of go, Emperor's New Clothes, you know, and the question is, can you do it? Can you create something and in all good consciousness, sell it knowing there's nothing behind it? Well, some people have and do. So you need to be aware of it. But Ray, go on. What were you going to say there?
No, I was just going to say, it reminded me of a song by Delamitri, and it was said something about businessmen buy up Van Goghs for the price of a hospital wing. You know, nothing ever happens. Nothing happens at all. That song.
We can edit that bit out.
It's sort of reminiscent of that, and it's like anything else with a value. It's value. What does value do people put on it? I mean, look at, you know, the Mona Lisa. It's, you know, one off. It's one of a kind, etc., etc. There's all these works of art, but they're tangible though, Nigel. You can touch them, you can see them and feel them, and you know that if you've got it, you've got the original, and it's physically there. To create
I mean, Ray, this is where
it can be replicated like a photocopying machine just seems to be bizarre to me.
Well, that's where Gary V did something that was tangible. You can come to an event.
You talked about utility. Yeah, I get that.
And that's the key thing. Now, the biggest thing, folks, is determining, all right, how do I find out that utility? Now, I know in some of these things, like the Bored Ape Yacht Club, I think if you got one, the first thing you could do was go to the club toilet and write some graffiti on the wall. And it was like, what?
Clearly, this is an age thing. It really is.
This is like 200,000 has done that. It's not an age thing, because how many teenagers do you know with 200 grand? You know, it isn't. Well, this is, you know, serious people.
Okay, is it serious people? I mean, they seem to have more money than sense, though. I mean, really. If
Okay.
you're working in Silicon Valley and you're a bright young thing and you're earning thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars from working for Google, Facebook, or whatever it is, that's the impression I get of the people that are buying these things. Am I wrong?
Right. It comes back to greed. It really does. It comes back to thinking, if I get in here, talk it up, and as I say, Discord and Twitter, this is where the ramping up of the desire, selling the sizzle of this particular thing. By the way, you're not going to get a sausage. You're just going to hear the sizzle, and they do it. It's a classic Ponzi for a lot of these things. It's fluff, smoke and mirrors. It's nonsense and stuff, and you will not get anything there. So if you're thinking of investing in them, do it at a very low cost, just so you've set up your wallet, just so you've bought one, just so you've sold one, just so you've traded a bit in some cryptocurrencies and things like that. Just do it for a few dollars. There's loads out there and what have you, but trying to find those things with actual tangible things behind it is very difficult. And this, Ray, is why in the future you will see the thing that I'm going to be building, and it will be all tangible behind it. But here we go. I'm going to give you some problems, Ray. So there can be.
I have enough of these, Nigel. I don't want yours.
Yeah, I'm going to give you 99 problems, but an NFT ain't one. No, they are complex, folks. They are complex. You've got to be careful that, what's the use of it? There's very limited use, as you say, for a digital artwork sort of thing. You've got to be careful of the costs involved in it. So you have these transactional costs, which they call gas fees, which is effectively how much it costs in computing power to actually do the crypto sort of calculations behind it and things like that. So you got to be careful with that. Scaling, yeah, always kind of scaling, liquidity, all those things. It's hard sometimes to get these things to transact, and is the market there? Regulation, well, the whole purpose of Web 3.0 is to be decentralized and have no regulation. Does that mean that it's more dangerous? Well, I wrote an article on LinkedIn about this a while ago, and I said, if you think regulation is so brilliant, go look out how many things went spectacularly wrong that were in regulated industries, and you'll realize regulation ain't necessarily a guarantee. So there was all that in there. Intellectual property, you've got to be careful. You can lose control of your wallet. You can lose control of these things. You can be scammed, just like anywhere. And folks, this ain't for the faint-hearted. This is for someone who I think you should. Don't just jump in. You should just follow some things. Always go in with that, honestly, ENC, Emperor's New Clothes. And if you cannot see the value behind something, the chances are there is no value behind it. So you got to be careful and always look for, it's funny, I was listening to someone talking about it, a very well-respected person, and he was waxing lyrical about these ones that he'd spent a lot of money on. And he was talking about them, and he said, and the owner of it, the company founder, came up with this amazing thing where you do this thing called nesting, and it's because it's these bird things. And the idea of that is you get a little bonus, or you get some extras, or you get some, reveal something else if you don't trade them. And, he was talking about it, and I was thinking, this is market and price manipulation. This is hyping up something, refusing to sell it until the hype has got to such a point that when you do sell it, you sell it at a tremendous profit. And you got to think, if somebody is telling you or pressuring you to not sell something, then to me, that is going to be market manipulation of some shape or form, or price manipulation, price fixing. It's all sorts of things, and you will see it all over the place. And just a top tip, folks, if there's someone famous, if there's a major sporting star, be very, very wary of it, because there's been so many where it's meant to have been an incredible access to an incredibly famous person. I'm not going to say the word iconic because it bugs me when everything on the media is described as iconic. So I'm going to say famous. You get a famous person and you think, wow, this NFT is going to give me access to them. 1 week into it, and the famous person goes, this is rubbish. I've got a bunch of nutters here on Twitter and Discord who hassle me nonstop. Forget this. I've made my 10 million. I'm off. And sure enough, at that point, everyone left holding the NFT goes, hold on a second. If the reason for buying the NFT was the famous person is no longer here, what am I left with? The emperor is naked, folks. The emperor is naked.
What it seems to me is it seems a bit like, the gold rush, when everybody was rushing in 1840s to California. The ones that made all the money were the ones that made the jeans and the pit props and the shovels and the wheelbarrows and,
No. The ones that made the money were the ones who came in with a bag of gold saying, I found it on that piece of dirt. Who wants to buy that piece of dirt? That's where
like all the ancillary businesses round the thing.
The shovels. The shovels and the jeans and all the rest of it are the platforms upon which all these things are traded. That's that. But no, the ones at the moment, if a guy came in and holding a massive gold nugget and said, I got it from over there, who wants to buy that land? You're going to get people who say, I'm going to buy that land. But where's your ability to check that gold nugget came from that piece of land? And the answer is you don't have it. You don't have it. And this is the thing. So there you go. Can you raise money using NFTs? Absolutely, folks. You absolutely can. If you're unscrupulous, you can make an absolute pigging fortune. If, however, you do have scruples, you do have morals, you do have ethics and all the rest of it, yes, you still can. But you are going to have a much harder time doing it, simply because the vast majority of people who are going in and out of NFTs are looking for the thing they buy for, $1,000 that they sell 3 weeks later for $30,000. They're looking for the get rich quick. And really, you need to be appealing to a market, to a customer base who are far more pragmatic, who are looking for the utility as well as potentially and appreciating NFT asset. So
utility behind it. And if you think, well, what you've said there, utility behind it. So Gary Vaynerchuk has said that if you hold his NFT, you get access to his trainings and so on. And it's reached a level of from £1,000 to £9,000, $9,000. But each time it gets traded, he gets paid. So he can carry on putting on these events and still getting paid effectively, because of the way that they're sold. I get it. All right. So
and don't forget, 2,000 people can turn up to the events. You sell 10,000 of these things. How many people? They're going to be owned all over the world. How many people can actually turn up to the event? There'll be some sort of stuff that he sorts out in there. But he's a very clever guy. He knows what he's doing. But it was an obvious thing. When somebody said, have a look at CryptoPunks, which were the tiny little 1980s pixelated little faces. What can you do with that? You can make it your Twitter image, your sort of avatar, but what else can you do with it? I don't know.
Fascinating. All right.
So there you go, folks. Yes, you need to do it. And if anyone's interested in finding out more, drop us a line, hello@hdrmoney.co.uk. And as I say, in the background, I'm putting together something that I think will be, I'm going to throw it in there, revolutionary, in terms of this.
Will it be
sort
iconic?
Of
That's what we need to know.
Yeah, I will. I'll have to start describing myself as iconic. And this being an iconic podcast, I'm going to get myself an iconic cup of coffee with maybe an iconic bacon sandwich or something like that. But look, folks, NFTs, exciting. Yes, you could potentially make money, but you need to understand what's going on behind it to know whether you've got something with any longevity. Because don't forget, as soon as you bought it, just like any share in any company, you've got to hope that the company has some future, because that means you'll be able to resell the share. If oh, by the way, Ray, I've got some shares in Blockbuster. It's going to be a cracker. Do you want 1 million? I can sell you 1 million of them. You know, it's that sort of thing. How do you check out if Blockbuster is the future, or is it, you know, is it a load of rubbish? So that's the trouble with NFTs.
I'll swap you them for my shares in Clinton Cards. How's that?
Yeah, there
Right.
you go.
Well, on that iconic bombshell, that's been NFTs. I've been Ray McLennan.
I'm still Nigel NFT best.
Goodbye.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the How to Raise Money podcast. It's made for people who want to raise money as debt or investment equity for their business or property proposal or empire. The website has all the useful links and underlying research, and you can get downloads of the checklists and other useful information. See you next time, where we can show you how to raise money. There is abundance. There is money enough for everyone on the planet. The question is, who has yours?